Welcome to Fort Prinzenstein. The Danes named the fort Prinzenstein, meaning the stone of the prince. They started the construction from 1700, completed 1784. And they were buying slaves from Togo, Benin, Nigeria, and other parts of Gold Coast, now Ghana. So those slaves were transported by foot in chains to the fort over here. So they were kept for a month or two before they were transported across the Atlantic. And most of them were sold in the Danish, Norwegian island, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John. Formerly it was called West Indies, but now US Virgin Island. So each of the dungeons in the fort take about 100 to 200 slaves, but initially no window. The window was later on created by the British when they were occupying the fort after the Danes. Inside the dungeon, the slaves defecate, urinate, sleep there, and were dying through insanity condition. So they use hot iron, which bear the name of the company, to brand them for identification. And the trade by then was so persuasive that even the smallest community or the weak community, they have to go on a war path in order to secure slaves to get arms to defend themselves when attacked. An unfortunate one were the must to establish slave market. We have the Atoko slave market, not far from here. The Atoko slave market is just like how Asim Manso, Salaga, and Sandema slave market is. So the slaves were put on display, sold to the highest bidders. And they also use shea butter or palm oil to rub the body of the slave, just to make them very attractive to the buyers. And then Samori and Babatus in the north, raiding, kidnapping, and all those slaves were channeled through Tetekrachi, that's the northern side of Volta, all the way down here. So when the slaves arrived, they were sorted, way branded, and then they opened their mouth to estimate their age by the state of their teeth. Children and younger ones were counted as quarter, half, to 10 pieces of cargo, depending upon the estimated commercial value. So they can make 3 children the price of 1 adult slave. There's more to see, more to hear in the dungeons. Over here, this is the female section of the fort. This is the female section. We have the ocean block over here. When the slaves arrive, this is why they examine them, price them, and sorted them to the dungeons. The fort stand alone. There was no building surrounding it. All these buildings came after they abolished slave trade. They abolished slave trade in 1807. But illegal trafficking goes on up to 1834. Over here, this is where the female slave bath. So when they are taking bath, governor have the chance of selecting them, sleep with them. That's why you have a lot of mulattoes in Keta. So the water that they bath remains here in case they are thirsty. They drink the same water they bath with. So when they conceive, they leave them around. And after they deliver, the mother will be taken away, and the child remained with them. They were groomed, they were interpreting the language for them. So over here, this was how the fort was before the sea destroyed part of it. You know, slave trade was a trade by barter. They were using brandy, whiskey, mirror, gun, and gunpowder in exchange for slaves. And later on, they start using cowrie shells, 500 cowrie by female slaves, and 300 for the male. The female were more expensive just because over there, they give birth and they were sold to other plantation owners. The gun they used to capture the slaves is still here. The stool taken from our chief, because they say no, they will not allow them to put up the fort over here. That leads to some of our people moving from here to Agbosuma. And these are the drum used to waken the slaves each morning. Artists' impression about how the slaves were captured, brought here, and then transported is here. So this was how the fort was before the sea destroyed part of it. This is how they transported the slaves from the north to the fort. Over here, they were branding the slaves. They used hot iron with the name of the company to burn marks at the various part of their body for identification. They were taken down to be arranged this way. This is how they arranged them in the lower deck of the ship. They beat them. They use horse and dog to chase and then kidnap slaves. Weak or sick or dead ones were thrown overboard on the high sea. And they put this around their neck to prevent them from escaping. Put on the marks so that people cannot easily identify them. So inside the dungeon over here, they miss the slaves so that they will not communicate to plan to escape from them. So this is what they used to weigh the slaves to see how strong they are before they buy. So the way the slaves weigh determines their price in those days. And after buying too, they want that slave to maintain that required strength. So when they realize that you lose it, they tie a block at their back, throw them to the sea. Because they were in need of strong slave who can work in a sugarcane or cotton plantation for them at that time. We also have this is the safe used by the slave masters. The safe. They keep in document, jewelry, and all that inside. And these are the seats used by the governor. So this is the kitchen. This is what they used to grind the corn. They don't have corn mill machine at that time. So they will grind the corn over here. So some of them were chained over here. They secured the slave by two. They will chain one right leg to another left leg. They used their fingers to scratch both the wall and the floor. They wanted to dig into the building and escape from them. Those are the chains that were used to chain them. This is what they used to carry the dead ones. Hats used by the slave masters. So between 1650 and 1860, approximately 10 to 15 million enslaved people were transported from Africa to America. Most were shipped to West Indies, Central America, and South America. So this is one of the dungeons the strong slaves were kept before they were transported. That's the only source of air and light. So slavery and its lingering consequences must be kept in our mind so that we are guided away from such a devastating incident in our history.